T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Midheaven Podcast. Hope you guys are doing well. My name is Candace. This is my partner in crime,
Mercury.
Hey,
Known
Hermes.
as Godiva Smooth. Please don't trademark that, but sponsor us, please. Godiva chocolate. But
Wouldn't that be great?
that would be.
I feel like
epic.
that would be more detrimental than like a booze sponsorship. Because we're gonna drink either way, but like chocolate is just it's not a good situation.
You give a lot of weight for sure. Yeah.
Speaking of vanity, welcome to Libra season. We're stoked to be back with another episode. We want to talk to you guys all about what is going on with Libra season, all of the most important transits for the month ahead.
I'm a whole organized mess, so I think Libra will be good for me. Could just balance it out. I got the Cap Moon, so I look composed, but I'm a whole mess. It's amazing. I'm just like a put together mess.
I'll sign
Chaos
off on
control.
that with the Capricorn. Yeah, this season, I was looking at it earlier today. I was like, it's kind of fucking messy, dude. Kind of messy. Especially like looking at like the actual sun ingress chart, because this is also, at least here in the northern hemisphere, it is the fall equinox. So this is also like that kind of quarterly check-in that we do astrologically to see what's going on for really the next season. So this is really going to run all the way until like the third
Scorpio.
week or so of Capricorn,
Yep.
when we have the winter solstice. So this is quarter 3 of 2022. And
Quarter 3.
I predict the wildest one yet.
I 100% believe that.
Yeah.
I think the Virgo season is the twist, and then this breakthrough into fall is probably going to be the most intense we've had in a long time, fall and winter. So
Just the fact that this is the very start of Libra season, so that's why we're also being like, okay, this is going to be the quarter 3 chart for the fall. But off the bat, I mean, Mercury retrograde, Kazemi with the sun at 0 degrees,
Yeah.
Cardinal Libra.
followed by a balsamic phase and a new moon opposite Jupiter instantly. That's definitely going to start off with a
I'm
bang.
just going to come out and say it, okay? Like,
Here we go.
2 things.
Here we go.
The narrative is falling apart. Thus, we will find...
Which we did predict
Yeah.
multiple times would happen in Virgo season. So.
And as we're filming this, it's mid-September right now. So we're a week out.
Did you expect for it to fall as flimsily as it did and as quickly, or?
I felt like it was going to take until Mercury came out of shadow in mid-October, because it's still, when it stations, it's going to be in opposition to Neptune still.
Right.
Which is viruses and medical stuff and hospitals. The narrative is changing. So, I mean, Mercury retrograde, right? Things change. We change our mind, but it's retrograding from Libra into Virgo. So, as a result of the oppositions to Jupiter, there's been lots of challenges within the legal system in regards to our personal rights and freedom. Aries, Jupiter. And brought to you by the airplanes. I think people challenging it legally about whether or not masks need to be worn on airplanes, and then people challenging whether or not they need to wear it in gyms, and then people challenging whether or not they need to wear it at work and going about. So it's crumbling, and like my mind was blown just the other day watching the New Zealand Prime Minister, I can't remember her name, but her flat out being like, we have to respect people's choice as to whether or not they want to wear a mask or get the V word. And I was like, this is fucking insanity, because like they were hauling people away and putting them in centers a few months ago, being like, you don't have a choice, you're going to kill us if you don't make the decision. So I don't want to go on a whole rant about this.
But it's still important to at least mention, because it'd be interesting to see the fallout from that maybe the next couple of years, or Saturn and Pisces, where there is a consequence, there's an effect. So
I think also just the fact that Mercury's retrograde at that 0 degrees of Libra does talk about, because that's the world access points, 0 degrees of all the cardinal points, that there's going to be some big fucking news, basically, coming
Huge
out.
news, yeah.
It may not be this day. It may be a couple days later at the new moon. It may be when Mercury comes out of the retrograde.
A major announcement.
And hits that conjunct 0 degrees of Libra down the road.
Yeah.
But there's big news coming, especially because this is on that 0 degrees of Libra. So we mark the seasons with this, but this is where we see stuff globally. And it is still in opposition to Jupiter. So Jupiter will still oppose this, and we will see Jupiter oppose this in its retrograde. So look for like when planets cross that 0 degrees of the cardinal point. So we're only going to see it in Libra. We might see it when Jupiter hits 0 in its retrograde, and we're definitely going to see in the turn of the year as planets start squaring that in Capricorn, like, I don't know, just having Venus 12th house to the sun.
Yeah.
Number 2
opposite Neptune.
To the narrative changing. My second point is like relationships are a fucking shit show right now. Even the good ones. It's a mess.
It's like a huge turbulence. I like that you say that, yeah.
It's super turbulent with Venus being in
like
Virgo.
The collective stuff coming into...
Opposed Neptune, square Mars, 12th house to the sun. You got people having affairs with coworkers. You've got people who are going to be having hookups with sex workers behind their
even celebrity
backs.
couples, you're seeing like
yeah,
breakups and stuff like that. This type of relationship friction is perfect for unions that actually love each other and will grow so much from it. Like there's so much that might have been blocked before that will open up acceptance through really beefing with each other for a small period. But then the relationships that really actually like have the connection will make it through, and the ones that don't won't. But just to speak on the announcement you said earlier, which before we get back to relationships, which is beautiful for Libra, I really do feel like there is some sort of major announcement, and I think it's important to, I think what we're gonna see, because it's one thing if you were like a quote unquote conspiracy theorist, or it's one thing if you were really against all this stuff from the get-go. But now with these changing narratives, I think there's a huge disillusionment over the next 6 months.
Yeah, Neptune.
For people who really had faith in these organizations and had every right. You know, you shouldn't have to doubt medical organizations that tell you what to do. Like, you should believe in them. So I feel like there's going to be a huge fallout and betrayal from people who feel like they were lied to. You know what I mean?
Well, it's in the media. Okay, the squares to Mars and Gemini, you have to take into consideration, like, hitting eclipse points over the last 2 years. Mars and Gemini is like the talking heads on the different stations and the different like networks that we have, and the networks know that shit's falling apart, the narrative's crumbling, they're losing money, they need to drum stuff up. Like, was it you that sent me the meme that said like monkeypox flopped real quick? Was it you?
Yeah.
And I was like, amazing, that. Like, great, I'm glad to see that. And like now it's like they're scaring people about fucking polio, and it's like, damn. You know, it makes me wonder like why they're pushing this narrative for injections. P.S. injections being Mars.
They know something is coming that we are probably not aware of, and that's why I love that you said a big announcement, because if it will come out, it's going to come out during the season. And I think it has to do with the Sun-Mercury opposition to Jupiter. That kind of makes it bigger than it might seem. But I also like how you said it might happen after Mercury comes out of shadow.
Yeah, I think it will. And you have to understand, all of Libra season, I'm not trying to bypass Libra season, but all of Libra season is this build up to what will be some pretty fucking gnarly eclipses at the eclipse at the end of October.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Do you think that this announcement will come out before or after the midterm elections?
Oh, no, they're not going to let anything come out. But, I mean, you have to understand that the midterm election's on the 8th. You've got a North Node Taurus eclipse, conjunct Uranus square Saturn, and it's at 16 degrees. So it's in the midst of just things financially imploding and, like, issues with supply chain delays and food issues. And
my bad, I don't think you heard me right. Do you think that they would announce it before?
No, I guess what I was saying is it's imploding, but I don't think they're going to want to announce anything before the midterms.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that's true.
You know, Mercury is going to take some time before it comes out of shadow, so it'll be like mid-October. Maybe when Mercury goes through Scorpio, you know, we're going to dig up some more, but no, I don't think so. I mean, this just encapsulating everything for the next 3 months. between the moon in opposition to Saturn square Uranus. You've got Neptune, the moon quincunx Neptune, so like major disillusionment. And then you've got Libra season ruled by Venus, Venus in Virgo, already uncomfortable, in an opposition to Neptune and behind the sun. Venus is invisible.
And it's fall.
Yeah.
That's deep.
Yeah. So this is already going to be quite a colorful season. I guess if we speed this up a little bit.
Before you do, or keep going, but like in light of relationships, I feel like that Venus balsamic before the new moon is almost like some decisions made prematurely before all the facts are coming through.
Oh, for sure, with the opposition. You also have to understand that Venus is the dispositor of the sun in Libra, and also when the season begins, when Mercury is retrograde conjunct the sun, when it's Cazimi, the dispositor of Mercury at the time of this is also still Venus behind the sun. So it's
dispositor
saying,
means what?
like basically Venus rules the sign that rules Mercury.
Oh,
right?
okay. The dispositor
Yes, there's
is
a
what
mutual
rules
reception.
the sign that, right? Mutual receptivity.
Right? Because
That's
you've
true.
got them in each other's sign.
So the dispositor of Jupiter would be Mars.
Right.
Okay.
So just the fact that you've got the Sun, Mercury, Cazimi, if you dig deeper and you look at the ruler of Libra, Venus is in fall behind the Sun and Mercury in opposition to Neptune, which means something is intentionally being concealed about Venus and Virgo things. Health workers, hospitals, nurses, not entertainment, but
Financial
like
independence too.
yeah, but people who also like, I think of like who are in the service industry. Caretakers,
right.
stuff like
Okay.
that. Being kept in the dark. Something is being shielded or withheld.
Do you think that's aligned with the government raiding Amish farms with fines because they can't stop their operations, stuff like that? I mean,
I could see the Pluto trines being that.
the Pluto trine. There we go. Yeah,
And
yeah.
Venus in opposition to Neptune because it's people who are serving the land and then, them being like kind of.
Because they don't need electricity and they don't need gas.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Like, look at what's going on. You've got Amish people who for generations have been like, we don't need
Chilling.
anything. They're fine. And they're thriving because they're eating well, raising their own crops and cattle, and they're sustaining themselves through selling produce, through selling clothing,
And we thought they
building
were backwards,
fireplaces.
but it looks like they were kind of ahead of the curve. That's like Uranus
Yeah.
and Taurus to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild.
So, I mean, if they're going after them, it's a systematic takedown of anybody or anything that is hoping to be self-sustainable.
This is beyond collecting rainwater. This
Yeah.
is Bill Gates will buy up your farmland and you will own nothing. It is
God,
what
we're
it
gonna have to
is.
start a whole like,
And you will like
a
it.
Amish rehabilitation program.
Oh, that would be dope. It might just become Amish.
Just sounds like Amish gone wild. Just like a bunch of guys with like beards just tearing ass around town.
Yo, that's gonna be good. That'll be interesting.
Sounds like a new reality series.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I was looking at was then we have the new moon in Libra, which will be a couple days later, 2 degrees, new moon, still in opposition to Jupiter, Venus in its fall, Venus opposed Neptune, Venus trine Pluto, all that other stuff. So it's encapsulating everything we just said, but it's a new moon, so it's new intention. So it's kind of fucked that it's a new moon with Venus and Mercury behind the sun. So it's
Yeah.
basically saying Mercury is going back. He's going to the ethers, receiving information in regards to Venus and Virgo things. So actually, this is where I think the information grab is coming from. Where
Before it gets released.
before it's
That's
released.
true.
And this is data, facts, doctors, specialists, analysts in the field of food and health.
So let's say it is an analogy for what Candace just said. Let's say that Mercury in Virgo was researching all these details. It goes into Libra. It presents those details to actual professionals or to people who need to, breaks through and realizes, hey, these details aren't matching with what you're saying. And now it goes back and it meets with Venus like, hey, I spoke to these people. This is what they said. here, well, before you go and reach them, this is what I have to tell you. And then we
And
actually
it's
go
all
forward.
it's all trine
Trine
Pluto.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
there's some deep digging investigations going on. And,
Revelation.
and
Hold on.
as the Mercury retrograde is stationing, it's going to square Mars, which means likely once the facts and the data comes in and it's being turned over to political figures and they're telling people in the media what the new narrative is, they're going to get slaughtered. Because they're going to be like, you said this and now it's that. I mean, the CDC's already walked stuff back, and in so many ways, whoever that woman was who came out and basically was like, yeah, like we lied. Like it's come out about facts and figures and what they've tested stuff on, and this is only like the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
And
what if they reveal we had to lie to you because we were preparing for an invasion or some crazy shit, some off the wall? In fact,
I don't think they'll ever flat out admit to anything.
No.
I mean, I don't think they will.
Not
I
at
think
that
you're going to
level.
see people who are going to come out and they're basically going to be like, well,
Pointing
we had
the
this
finger.
and we had that. Yeah, they're going to
It
point
was
the finger.
Putin's fault.
They've told Fauci he's got days to turn over emails about his communications with...
The gain of research?
No, something else. It was like who he was talking to in regards to social media platforms or I don't know what. But there were, I think it was Project Veritas that released stuff saying that, no, I saw it on Ivory Heckler, take that back. She was posting all kinds of stuff about basically the CDC going back and forth telling Facebook what to censor. Specific keywords
on
and
Twitter too,
conversations.
right?
And on Twitter, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's
So,
interesting.
and that's just coming out now. So basically there's
That's
going to be more
wild.
of that. I don't think it's just going to be this stuff though, because this is all 12th house to Libra. So it's like scandals involving, you know, women and things being exposed with women or...
Which I'm glad you mentioned that, because Venus is squaring Mars, and that square has brought more friction in the whole men versus women debate, or feminine
very
versus
battle
masculine.
of the sexes.
Battle of the
Yeah.
sexes, identity politics, sexual orientation. And so let's talk about Saturn and Aquarius, because you said something that, and that's what I love about astrology, specifically tropical, because this and also the January 6th Capitol riots, I put that in quotes, are two events that prove tropical, by the way. And like shit on
the
sidereal.
ingresses.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it wouldn't make sense with sidereal, but it makes sense perfectly with tropical. In that we know scientifically, like anyone, you watching this, you can go back in time and track this. As soon as Saturn went 0 degrees aqua, which would be like 23, which would be like maybe like 8 degrees Capricorn in sidereal, not to make it a debate, but as soon as Saturn went 0 degrees Aquarius, that was the first time we started to see posts get censored. This was where we started to see like censorship of social media networks and communication.
Well, they were trying to shut down protests.
Protests
and that
too.
was part of
You're
it.
right.
Is that they didn't
Yeah.
want people.
They wanted
meeting.
some protests to happen, but they didn't want
Yeah.
other protests to happen. It was like very controlled at the period, which is crazy. So the question I want to ask is, you know, that was 2020. Now we're 19 degrees. So like Virgo, that's 8th house to this Aquarius, is transforming those narratives, exposing those narratives. What do you feel like this censorship and Saturn aqualescent will look like going into the 3rd decan? Because we're going to finish it this year.
Well, whenever you're working with like the 3rd decan, it's global, and we still are going to take
Of any sign, the 3rd decan?
Yeah, it's more out in the world. I mean, you take into consideration the ruler for that decan, but like the ruling planet. But I look at it and kind of go, I mean, the Saturn-Uranus squares are going to rock everybody for the next 2 months. Because it's going to return back to 18 degrees. So you want to think to like the 3 times in 2021, I think it was like February, June, and November, that we had the Saturn-Uranus squares. So the only like kind of silver lining to this, I think, is that in the midst of that Saturn-Uranus retrograde, as they're squaring, Mars will trine. So we're going to see Mars trine Saturn. So through the limitations and the setbacks and the frustrations and the supply chain issues, more people are going to talk about it and be like, is this controlled? Was this set up? You know, and like it's going to bring up the topic of like hopefully more debates. Like we see more diversity in the media. We see two sides of opinions. We see less division and more willingness to be able to kind of debate and talk about things. I think that the Mars transit's getting screwed because it's going to be squared to the Venus-Mercury in Virgo, to transit Neptune. People are going to spin it and go, these people are extreme, they're crazy, you can't believe them.
Yeah.
And so it's not really, I think, going to be until Mars goes retrograde and it trines Saturn again that we're really going to start to realize, like, your conspiracy theorist friends probably weren't so fucking crazy because you're about to find out that they're getting ready to roll out a whole new credit system with the intention of digital control.
Digital currency.
Yeah.
All that. And I think it's kind of amazing how they're unveiling and like releasing all this, kind of like releasing new products year after year, just kind of unveiling it. What's also really cool about this Libra season is, once again, as well as, you know, 2020 marked the first year that all the planets, technically it was like 2019, but like 2020 was really that year where we had nothing in Leo, we had nothing in Virgo, we had nothing in Libra, we had nothing in Scorpio, the social signs, and we started social distancing, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, all this social activity that's coming through right now will be interesting once it goes back, and then we have none. So it's like we're all coming together to...
Also, when Saturn
figure
leaves a
some stuff out.
sign, he leaves like a legacy.
You're right.
So we've had
That's
Saturn
true.
in Aquarius for what will be 2.5, almost 3 years. Then it's going to go into Pisces next year. And by that time, it's in the same sign as Neptune. And people are going to go, fuck it. We're so used to being isolated and alone. I'm just going to eat my Cheetos and Hot Pockets and tune in to like the metaverse. I mean, that's where we're going. That's the intention.
So what would you say the legacy for the cap was? Basically the
Survival.
What got us here, right? The reset, yeah.
Survival,
True.
bossing up, figuring out how to initiate long-term goals and sticking to it. I mean, for some people who really worked those Capricorn transits, it was like the Saturn and Aquarius transit has just been, okay, build off on that. What did you start? Okay, keep going.
And then the Saturn Pisces will blossom it, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's supportive of what would be like the 10th house.
That's what I'm looking forward as Saturn Capricorns, where our Saturn return is going to finally blossom and we'll finally experience.
Yeah, we've had like a
results.
7-year Saturn return.
I
want a refund.
Right, they said it was just the sign. I didn't know it was that
No,
that
it
and the
wasn't.
third
Well, that
sign.
was just
like,
for because we have the North Node Aquarius. But
you're right.
I feel like right when I start to feel like it's like coming off, I still have Saturn square my Sun right now.
Damn.
And it's in opposition to Uranus, so I don't really get a break until next year. But
It's trining my sun, but it's
how does it feel to be God's favorite?
I'm not gonna lie, it kind of feels like that a little bit. It's just squaring my Venus, so like I have no love life. But it is what it is. I had no love life when it wasn't squaring my Venus. But actually, I did. No, but I don't know. It is what it is. It feels interesting. I'm just still clueless as ever.
So coming off the new moon, the Sun-Jupiter opposition, Jupiter returns back to 3 degrees. That's the same degree where we had the Mars-Jupiter conjunction at the end of May at 3. So Mars-Jupiter conflicts over philosophy, personal beliefs, personal freedom, personal rights. So that's going to be like a really big theme around September 26th because the moon is still triggering that opposition. And it's opposed Chiron.
This might be one of the most powerful new moons we have other than Capricorn.
So I did a video on this today actually for my channel. Nice. And I wanted to see when that, because we know we have eclipses coming in Aries and Libra.
Yeah.
So I looked at when that fully matures. In 2024, there's going to be a lunar eclipse in Libra in the spring, and it's going to be 5 degrees Libra. So actually, the intentions that you set with this new moon will fully emerge in 2 years' time, in the spring of 24.
24 is going to be when it's about to end and leave Aries. Okay, and then go into Pisces.
No, it's going to be doing that in 23. In 2024 is when we have an eclipse at that degree. So actually, no, I think it's 2023 that the nodes are going to go into.
No, I mean like 2024 is when it's going to leave Aries and go into Pisces, right?
It's getting ready to do that. Mm-hmm.
That's so interesting, yeah. But I mean, that expansion, what do you feel about the concept of Jupiter and Aries and dealing with people who have inflated egos? And having to like.
Oh, it's in my 7th house right now. I see a lot of that.
Yeah. Oh, you're right.
Yeah, it's been a thing.
Weird.
I think that the oppositions between the Libra placements and Jupiter and Aries is like, don't gas people up if they don't deserve it. There could be a lot of people who are just like, yeah, I'm the shit, like I'm this, I'm that, and like they're not playing well with other people. And I think that we're going to learn a lot during Libra season about relationships and like where we're giving too much to other people and giving too much power or authority to other people, and where it's like offsetting the balance that we have in the relationships to ourselves or, you know, commitments that we have to other things in our life. That's what I think. But yeah, definitely seeing some inflated egos, that's for sure.
And then in the case where people actually have integrity and aren't full of shit, this could really boost partnerships you're in. Like I feel so good about this new moon, as dramatic and chaotic as it potentially can and will be. I think, especially with the Chiron opposition to the moon, many of you watching this and many just people in the world are gonna go farther in relationships with people and relative to people they know and people they don't even know. Because, you know, Libra is also like the act of forming partnerships and building relationships. So people are realizing that there's more to their character than they ever realized. And that's going to take them farther and do things with people they probably weren't able to do.
Yeah.
And that brings me now more to, this might also be the catalyst to kick off all the relationship issues that are going to happen, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I mean, it might already be kind of hanging around with the Venus opposed Neptune, where people are like avoiding having the conversations and showing up and doing what they need to do. But
wait. I'm so mind blown. You just said that, right? And shout out to you. I won't say her name, but she messaged me yesterday. I don't know why I'm just thinking about this right now. She messaged me yesterday asking me, help, I don't know what to do. My partner, who I've been best friends with, because she's a Capricorn and her partner's a Pisces, it's like we've been best friends forever and now we've been fighting and I don't know what to do. Like, he's not listening to me. And, you know, we were kind of talking about the trends and everything, and then you just said this, and I didn't realize, wow, relationships are really going through it.
Even
right
the
now.
good ones are going through it.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're having mutable squares. So we're having squares.
She said they never argued. They never fought before. Now they're just like, fine.
Okay, well, first of all, like, relationships that don't occasionally have beef are, like, to me, that's strange.
Okay.
Because that's not normal.
Right.
I mean, I'm an Aries moon. But that's not normal. I mean, obviously, you aim to, like, get along with people, but
like, they never are, like, they're more best friends. They never really had, like, crazy arguments like that, so.
Well, mutable squares represent things changing, and it's in signs that are very mercurial, so it's changing our mind, changing our belief, changing our direction, changing our philosophy, where we're learning, where we're going. So things are changing, and people don't always respond well to change. So if you're in a relationship and you're maintaining the status quo, and then you realize you want to level up, you're either going to grow together or you're going to grow apart. So yeah, when you start changing the rules of the game, people don't respond well to that, and they get threatened by the fact that their partner's changing.
That's true.
Which is super common right now, at least for my clients. But I think the bigger challenge is actually stemming from the fact that very shortly after this new moon, we then see Venus come into Libra, and Mercury will come into Libra, and all of those placements are going to oppose Jupiter, bringing up, you know, oppositions represent relationships. 180 degrees is a relationship dynamic.
It's an opposing influence,
and
open enemy.
It takes two people to tango. So Libra teaches us that sometimes we have to show up and play an active role in these relationships. We can't just hide out, be people pleasing, like bypass things and like not let it, like, you know, become a problem, because it's going to affect the individual with the oppositions to Chiron and Aries. Like, it's going to affect your body. You're going to have migraines. You're going to get angry. You're going to be more accident prone.
Yeah.
And Libra can be diplomatic and like the mediator when like helping like find or like make peace. But Libra also is a masculine sign. Even though it's ruled by Venus.
It's still masculine.
So it's going to be very like, you know, I don't think you should be doing that. That's not very fair. And I've heard
very
a lot
direct.
of that. Yeah.
Which is really cool, you know, communicative way. And I feel like the sun and the moon in Libra is like you being in a social environment, but your heart and your mind are still analyzing how to make sense of it. And then it's going to go in Libra, and then you move forward. take that action.
And the only way out is like you want to watch when planets are around, 16 to 22 degrees of Libra, because it's going to trine Saturn. So it's going to stabilize and find that you can reach goals together, or that we have common goals, or if we're working as a team, things work better. And we're also going to have that trine Mars, which is how do we communicate and incentivize each other to work on the relationship. Like we live in a time where it's like immediate gratification. You can immediately have food delivered to your house. You can swipe left or right on an app and meet somebody immediately and have a one night stand. But if you're not working on relationships and focusing on being able to communicate and like grow together, then like no wonder we have a bunch of depressed people who don't understand why they can't maintain relationships. They're not learning to fix things and stick it out, Which
the only thing that I like about that is I feel like things may need to reach their worst part before people are like, something has to change.
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially with Venus shadow.
So there could be a huge sexual and relationship revolution that may come later, but the seeds are sparked now, and we may not even be aware.
So then we see Venus enter Libra, crossing that 0 degrees, which is important because that was where Mercury retrograded in Kazimid. So that's going to be on the 29th. We have Mercury go direct around the 2nd. And it's still in opposition to Neptune, so things are still a little hazy. So for those of you guys who are like sticklers about the Mercury retrograde, you might want to actually wait until either Mercury comes into a trine with Pluto or when Mercury comes back into Libra. We've then got, let's see, the Sun's going to come into an opposition with Chiron right here on the 7th. Identifying and shining a light on the wound of like where our own unresolved issues can impact and affect relationships.
And with Mercury that's direct at this point, I think it's cool that the new moon, the Mercury is retrograde by the quarter square, it's stationed, and now by the full moon it's direct. So this, I think, is such sharp analytical focus with the moon on Neptune of feeling how to make the dream life real and how to communicate that to people who you're with so that it'll change the way you deal with other people. Around this moon in Pisces, Libra, Sun, the way that you incorporate your spiritual gifts and your intuition with other people's intuitive gifts, or even outside of intuition, just their practical skills, is going to transform relationships you're in, but then also how you tap into that collective and communicate it. And I feel with Mercury crystallizing opposition, there are crucial details that were hidden, or there are crucial details that will be hidden in plain sight that will be made available. And I think, like you said, Candace, once it goes into Libra, crossing the shadow period, that big news is going to kind of erupt.
I think this is also like the precursor to what's about to be a full moon in Aries, which is when people are like, fuck you, I'm going my own way. So the fact that you've got Moon Neptune conjunct in Pisces in opposition to Mercury is like, if you're having an argument with somebody and somebody's not responding to you, or they don't want to hash it out, or they're not calling you back, or somebody's ghosting you, it's like, bye. Like, see you later. Because it's setting up, because this is in a balsamic phase, it's setting up for the full moon in Aries, which is going to be very close to Chiron, right? One thing I missed, I'm just realizing this is it's kind of a big transit, so I couldn't really gloss over it, but on the 30th of September, Venus in Libra will oppose Jupiter. So we're going to see that setting up the 30th into the 1st. Venus opposed Jupiter, big love, big ideas, overdoing it, overspending, overeating, and still that you versus me type vibe. Okay, so let's take this maybe to here. So, wow. So, yeah, we're going to have a full moon in Aries conjunct Chiron. And the sun-moon opposition is already, like, oppositional, right? Yeah. So we see, like, sometimes,
Venus,
like,
too.
Separations. So we're going to see a number of lunations that are going to oppose Venus, kids. We're going to see this here. You're going to see this in the full moon
Taurus?
lunar eclipse in Taurus.
Oh,
yeah.
you're right.
And so we're going to have 2 full moons. One will be an eclipse where Venus is really heavily aspected.
Opposite Chiron and opposite Uranus. So this is great preparation. I feel like for relationships falling out, it can also help relationships come together, or fall out and come together all at once.
Or if you've taken space, it can be a time where it's like, okay, now do we talk about it?
Yeah.
You know?
Quite unexpectedly too. And this could be because of new events that change how you think of it, which haven't happened yet. So it'll be interesting to see, remember, with a new season, what new dynamics over the next 3 months this brings. But I think this full moon is not only evolving how you feel about yourself, because like you can feel about yourself a certain way in Aries season when you're by yourself, and then there's a certain way you feel about yourself when you're in a function with other people. And it's just going to help you understand who you need to be to balance your relationships with other people. And with Venus, polish it. But what do you think about the Pluto T-square? As light as it is.
It's light, but it's still there, and it's going to be felt for the next week as planets come into that square. I think that still Venus is in opposition to Chiron and behind the sun. Like, that's still painful. The only silver lining here is that we do see that there is a slight trine between the sun and Saturn. Well, it's not slight, it's 2 degrees, and the sun and Mars.
Yeah.
So it's like, if something's a problem, I keep telling people, if something's a problem, make it bigger. I'm not saying create a huge blown out of situation problem, but if something's a problem, don't sweep it under the rug. Like, there's a need to talk about it. And so all these air trines, I personally really like the astrology the first half of October. I think the first 2 weeks of October is awesome because we see so many air trines. But it's reminding us that we have to work together. We have to communicate. We have to pick up the phone. We have to talk about it. We can't just shut down. Because
communication is key.
if you're not doing that, then it's going to become very uncomfortable. And all of this Libra energy is quincunx 6th house to the North Node and Uranus, which Venus rules. So it's basically saying, like, clean it up, fix it, make it better. If there's delays, if we need to go and see a doctor, if we need to see a therapist, whatever we need to do, we need to work through it.
I love the grand air trine too, because the strengthening of information that Mars and Gemini is quickly bringing, that trine to Libra is going to let you know who to communicate it to. You're going to be like, I need to let this person know this, and let this person know that. And then the moon in Aries will literally fuel these partnerships forward. So I think that grand air trine will have a lot of people who are feeling stuck about, like, how do I make sense of this information? You're gonna be meeting the right people to bring your mind forward, bring the narrative forward, bring the conversation forward.
I like the moon sextile Mars, just being the fact that the moon's in a Mars-based sign. So that's nice. And I also think that, with the moon on the flip side, sextile Saturn, that's the beauty of Chiron right now. I never really realized it till now, but Chiron is sextile Mars. Chiron is sextile Saturn. It's like, we have to be able to find ways to communicate and heal our own issues. And if we can't do that in relationships, we need good friends, we need networks, we need community. We're not supposed to be doing a lot of this stuff alone.
Yeah, that's true. It'll really be good to, any inhibitions you may have had, like expressing unique aspects of yourself or eccentric aspects of yourself in society, socially with others, you'll break through that too.
Yeah.
And not feel as uncomfortable, but, break through that vulnerability.
So then we're going to have Mercury come back into Libra. That'll be like around the 11th of October.
Opposite Jupiter.
Yeah.
I like that that's the last planet to aspect Jupiter before it retrogrades back in Pisces.
Then we've got Sun trine Saturn, so that's a decent day on tap too for just figuring things out, laying the groundwork, putting things together and realizing like what the plan is or what the storyline is. We'll see then the Sun and Venus will then trine Saturn on the 13th, and then the Sun is coming into a trine with Mars. So a grand air trine's really strong in mid-October. The only problem is that Mars will square Neptune. So like the days that the moon is in mutable signs, be careful, because there can be a sense of like rushing ahead with things and like not seeing all the details. And I'm also watching I'm also watching the Sun and Venus come into a square with Pluto. And let's see, so Mars is in a square to Neptune. You're really going to feel that on the 13th and the 14th. Lost in translation, mixed up, not getting the full story, gossip, slander, manipulation in the media or in visuals. And then when the Sun starts coming into a square with Pluto, this is the closing square too, can be a little gnarly in terms of like power struggles and relationships. And that's going to be really seen from about October 18th through the 22nd. And this is like the last real significant aspect I wanted to bring up. Mercury in opposition to Chiron, talking about wounds and relationships. Venus is going to follow the Sun in Libra very closely for about 3 days. So we're going to actually see a Venus-Sun cazimi. So from 20, let's see, how many degrees is it? From 26 degrees of Libra on the 20th of October.
That's one of my vertexes.
Through
27.
The 23rd, Venus will follow along with the Sun and finally pull ahead of the Sun. Wow. And a new Venus star point will emerge where the Sun and Venus conjunct at 29 degrees of Libra.
That's huge. That's literally huge.
And then you're going to see, and this is going into Scorpio season, but then it's like, boom, balsamic moon, solar eclipse on the 25th. And Venus is then in Scorpio.
Jesus.
So a lot of people are probably going to like wrestle with relationships all the way through the end of October.
Huge pressure cooker. Huge pressure cooker.
Sun Venus cazimi I'm excited for. 29 degrees is like that now or never degree. It's like shit or get off the pot.
That's my vertex. I might get married.
29 degrees of Libra can be about divorce. Too.
And my parcel. Oh, no way.
Yeah,
that's interesting. What I really love here, once again, is that at this most crucial, intense period of Libra season, especially with Mercury opposite Chiron, this is definitely, I think a transit like this is where people are no longer, they're taking the kitty gloves off. It's like, I'm not going to sugarcoat what I say. This is what I fucking feel. Like, I can't believe it got here. But
it all squares Pluto. Oh.
But then it's like it's
like the 20th.
Right. And then it's like the fly on the wall is seeing Jupiter. It's like you have the square and then there's a firewall seeing Jupiter just at the side, like, oh, y'all about to quincunx me. It's like the new, we have the square and then that leads into the cazimi and that leads into the new moon, quincunx Jupiter, 0 degrees. And
it's a solar eclipse.
A solar eclipse at that too.
That's and it's like a super heavy Mars energy because it's a Scorpio new moon, quincunx Jupiter ruled by Mars and Aries. Venus is there.
Trine Juno.
If you guys, I mean, like the whole build up to the eclipses is the whole month of October.
Yeah,
it's the whole month.
It is. That's how I love to see it, as a huge build up. Like Virgo season is analyzing the details, but Libra season are actions that literally build up to this eclipse. So make sure that everything you do during Libra season is 100,000% authentically true to you. And that Pluto square is going to bring all the challenges that will come to a head. Especially challenges, because this Pluto square was the same Pluto that was a part of the 2020 quadruple conjunction. So this is going to bring to head a lot of the issues, disagreements, arguments, and stuff that has been there that will come at a head, that might have been swept under the rug.
It's also forming like yods, because if you look at this, you have a sextile between Neptune and the North Node Uranus. It's wide, but Libra being the focal point of the yod. So if you see sextiles between Neptune, which is more dream and fantasy, Taurus, which is physical reality, and then Libra, it's like we're going to realize that
shared synchronicities.
Yeah, and that you can't put all your eggs in the relationship basket. That if you are hoping and praying and just assuming that somebody's going to show up and save you, or they're going to fix it, or they're going to, know the way home, that you can't. You be careful with who you put your faith and your trust in. Yeah. Oh, and like Sun Venus conjunct, awesome, under the beams of the sun, so Venus is going to get burned up. And it's going to square Pluto. We're going to see lots of obsession, lots of like dirty laundry being aired in regards to all this stuff. While the sun is in Libra, the earth is in Aries, so you're going to see some people that are going to be pretty fierce. Drama.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
especially with Mars tightening its square to Neptune, like so much stuff is happening at once. It's definitely gonna be interesting. So what that looks like to me is something that we're not aware of now that will classic to the square, which was also reminiscent to 2020 of the election period. It's basically where a collective event or social event is having people decide, do you choose this or that or
Yeah,
this?
yeah.
And that could really bring
And
stuff
it's
to a
very
head.
active with cardinal squares.
Yeah.
Like it's super active. So you'll start to see it build. And, you know, Venus becomes more visible at the end of November when Venus pulls ahead of the sun in Sag. So, you know, even though Venus in Libra is positive, it's still invisible. It's visible very briefly around the 23rd, dips into Scorpio. And that's Libra season in a nutshell for you guys. So you'll have to let us know, like, what are you guys anticipating? What do you think? What do you see? How are you feeling about these energies? Is it impacting anything, like, significant? Like, is your birthday around the new moon or the full moon? Because that's pretty prominent, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll be back. We're going to create some more content, talk to you guys about some of the eclipses, get that stuff out early so we can make some predictions for that.
And the influence of Jupiter in Aries, I feel like is so key because that's what really provides this more expansive element to see how you can go farther and to see how much has evolved. Because that's like Jupiter in Aries means that when you go into Libra season, your connections with other people aren't going to be the same. Like you're going to realize you're more powerful. Like what you can do in a relationship is more, and that's going to create new levels, new devils, more problems. But one other thing that it can also allow you to do is join level 3 or level 2.
I was like, where's the sales pitch?
Of the membership, because you know what I'm saying. It'll bless you the more you bless us. So you know it's equivalent exchange. So.
Thank you guys for your support, your comments, your love, your donations, and joining us for our lives. You guys make it possible for us to keep doing what we're doing. Leave us comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, we'll see all of you very soon. Happy Libra season.
Peace.